Hey everybody, Trishna here. So in today's video I want to talk to you about how to really create this fertile emotional environment, this energetic foundation that we've been talking about for the past two videos. Essentially how to heal and release your blocks and how to really master your emotions. If you haven't already seen my previous two videos, I highly recommend that you go ahead and watch them. You will get a lot of value out of them. They're extremely important to watch and understand if you want to manifest the reality that you want to create for your life. So seriously, go ahead and watch those videos first because they're extremely valuable and set the foundation for how to manifest anything that you want. Okay, so now getting into the topic of this video, which is how to basically create that emotional environment and release your blocks so that you can plant those seeds of intention and they can just sprout and rocket off into the direction of your manifestation the moment that you basically plant them. So when it comes to releasing your blocks, there are actually two sides to it, I guess you could say, or like two different categories of blocks that you can have on a very big general scale. So on the one side, sometimes we have emotional blocks because somebody wronged us, or there was a situation that did or didn't happen for us, or there was some kind of external force that basically wronged us in some way or created some block for us, or there's the external blocks that we can have. Then there's also the other side of the internal blocks. It's our internal negativity or just our doubts about ourselves, the internal voices that we have about ourselves, basically the problems that we kind of create for ourselves. And I think that because I'm really trying to make these videos more bite-sized and easier to digest, I'm going to split this video actually into two. I'm going to talk about the internal healing in the next video, and this video I'm really going to focus on the external healing that you want to do when somebody maybe wrongs you, and really how to move past that energetically and emotionally and kind of transmute that energy into something positive. So that's what I'm really going to focus on in this video. I am going to be looking at some notes because I really also want to give you an example that we can follow through together so that you can see how to do the whole healing process for yourself. And this stuff really works. Sometimes you'll even get manifestations just by doing this type of healing work. So this is really powerful stuff, and it requires a pen and a notebook, and seriously write things down. I am somebody who does not like using tools. If you've seen any of my other videos on YouTube, I do all of my intuitive work with just my mind. I don't really use tarot. I don't use tarot cards at all. I don't use astrology. Every once in a while I've used like oracle cards, but for the most part I really like to stick to me. I like knowing that I have access to all the knowledge myself. So when I say to use a tool, I really mean it because I like doing everything in my head, and I've tried doing that, and that's a good fix when you don't have a pen and paper, but seriously, the pen and paper, it's magic. It's magic. If you want to create your reality, do it. Commit to it. Like, make the effort because it will be worth it. Okay, so let me just glance at my notes so that I am prepared. So, okay. Basically, let's go ahead and start with how to heal your external blocks. So what you want to do, the first thing that you want to do is you want to do what we talked about in my second video, which is you want to be, okay, no, actually first what you want to do is you want to pick a topic that you want to talk about. There's, maybe something has been bothering you, maybe something's been on your mind, maybe something just irritates you, maybe you feel like you're an area where you're stuck. Pick a topic that is on your mind or has kind of been bugging you. So that's the first thing. The next thing that you want to do is follow what I mentioned in my second video, the number one rule to manifesting, which is be really honest with yourself on how you actually feel about this topic. Don't try to sugarcoat anything. That's not going to give you any bonus points. In this case, what you want to do is you really want to be honest about how you actually feel about your situation. So once you have an idea of how you feel, what you want to do is you want to take your pen, you want to take your notepad, and you want to, or notebook, you want to then write down in full detail and in as many specifics as you can all the things that you're feeling and why you are feeling them. So you pick your topic, maybe you write the topic at the top of the page, and then you write a paragraph, or you can write sentences of everything that you're feeling on this topic, why you're feeling it, with as many specifics as you possibly can. I personally kind of do it all in a paragraph, and then I number each sentence, so I'll get to that in a second. So you write down everything, and let me just make sure, I really want to make sure that I mention everything and don't forget anything. Okay, so here's where the example comes in, okay? So let's say you are a parent and you have a child and you would really, really like to get along better with your child, but they are currently a teenager, they're going through teenagehood, and it really seems like the only thing that they're actually interested in doing is disrespecting you. So your topic would be your relationship with your child. That would be the topic. Okay, that would be the topic. Okay, so then we would break that down into specifics on what you feel, why you feel it, with as many specifics as possible. So you might write in your notebook, I feel, I'm going to say it how I wrote it instead of switching I versus you. So you might write that you feel hurt and misunderstood by your child, that you feel disrespected. Okay, maybe it's easier if I say I. So you might write, I feel really hurt and misunderstood by my child. I feel disrespected because I felt disrespected because when I asked them to clean their room, they just walked out, slammed the door, and didn't say a word. I feel unappreciated because I'm putting in all the effort and I'm not receiving much in return. So that's an example of about like 2 specifics. You know, it's like saying I feel hurt and misunderstood by my child. So that's saying how I feel. It's not really saying why or pointing to a specific scenario. But then the next sentence I say, I felt disrespected when I asked them to clean their room and they walked out and slammed the door. So that's how I felt, why I felt it, and specifics on the situation that actually happened. I feel unappreciated because I am putting in all the effort and not receiving much in return. Again, that's how I feel and why I feel it. Okay? So you would write that down. And you write down as many as come to mind. So here I've only listed 3, but when I've done this in the past, I would have like 10 sentences, 12 sentences around a scenario that I really need to work on, and I would just write them all down. I wrote them down all as a paragraph, like I was saying before, and I would number each sentence. You can write them down as individual lines if you want, however you want to do that. But then what happens is once you've written down everything that you feel, you then take each one of those sentences and you heal each one of those. That's why I would number each one of my sentences, because then I would say like, okay, the first sentence, and I write 1 below it, and then I would do all of my healing work for that first sentence. Once I felt good, once I felt better, once I felt complete, once I felt more at peace, I would go to number 2, I write number 2, and then I would do all the healing work there. And I just kind of keep repeating it until I was done with everything that I needed to work on for that day. So that's why you're going to want to have your sentences a little bit separate in some way. So basically, you take each one of those sentences and you heal each one individually. So we took everything from a big topic of relationship with my child. We boiled it down to specifics on what are the issues that I'm having with my child currently, the specific situations, how am I feeling and why. And now we're going to take each one of those and we're going to boil those down into specific healings that we're going to do for each one individually. Okay, so now when you are doing any kind of healing, whether it's external situation like here or whether it's an internal situation like tomorrow, but especially when it's an external situation, that's why I'm going to really include it in this video. The first thing that you want to do is for every single one of those sentences that you're going to heal on, you want to show yourself compassion. You want to honor your feelings. Your feelings are there for a reason. Your feelings are worthy because you are worthy, and they are not something that you need to be upset with yourself about or beat yourself up about. You need to honor them. You need to show yourself some compassion for how you feel because you have a say, you have a reason for feeling it, and it is perfectly valid, perfectly worthy. So that's the first thing that you need to do. So I want to continue with this example. I'm going to pick one of those sentences from the original that we talked about. I'm going to pick the sentence of how I felt disrespected when I asked my child to clean their room and they didn't say a word, they just slammed the door and left the room and walked out. So if I were to start my healing process, I would write number 1, or if you want to write your sentence above it, you can do that. But I would write number 1, and then I would start with being compassionate towards myself. So I would say, I feel disrespected because that was an extremely disrespectful thing for my child to do. I would never have treated my parents the way that I am being treated. This feels unfair. So this is you honoring your feelings. It's you giving yourself a chance to kind of justify your side of the situation. You never treated your parents this way. This is unfair that this is happening to you, and it was a disrespectful thing for your child to do. Okay, that's showing compassion for yourself. The next step, though, is, okay, so like I said before, I think, what did I say? I said there are no bonus points for, forgot what it was, but I have another one of those. There's no bonus points for sticking to reality and sticking to the truth. So now you've shown yourself compassion. You are not wrong for feeling what you're feeling. Don't ever feel like you're wrong for feeling what you're feeling. But now that you've shown yourself compassion, you don't get bonus points for sticking there. You don't get bonus points for justifying how you feel. You don't get bonus points with the universe for just staying as it is and just being like, yeah, that was disrespectful. The universe does not care about whether you were right or whether you were wrong or whether you were justified. It only cares about what you're putting out there. It only cares about you and your energy. So now that you've shown yourself compassion, you need to take some steps towards transmuting that energy that you currently have of feeling disrespected and transmuting it into something positive. So you want to take steps towards doing that. So once you've shown compassion for yourself, you need to show compassion for the person or for the situation. So now what your notebook will say, so I'm going to read the full thing, what we had before, and then I'm going to read what you would add on to show compassion for the situation. So now you might say, I feel disrespected because that was a disrespectful thing for my child to do. I would never have treated my parents the way that I am being treated. This feels unfair. However, I can think of many times when I did disrespect my parents growing up in my own way. I can think of times even now when I have wronged someone else, either on accident or even due to pride. In all of those scenarios, it would have meant a lot to me if my parents or others in the situation had shown me a little compassion. So I have it in my heart to show compassion for my child as well. Okay, so like now you've kind of transmuted a situation from this was disrespectful to, you know what, I've done the same thing and I really would have liked it if people had shown me some compassion. And you know what, I can show compassion for my child because I really would have appreciated that when I was growing up. So you've now shifted the energy. You've shown compassion for yourself and now compassion for the situation. You've now shifted your feelings. And, you know, if this is your scenario, you're probably feeling a lot better. It's like, yeah, you know, like I have a lot of love for my child. There's probably like a lot of feelings of love now because you've shifted the energy. But you don't have to stop there. I always say go as far as you feel good and go as far until you feel complete. You know, every time I work on my sentences, you know, I just keep going until I feel better and better and better. And then there comes a point when I'm just like, yeah, I feel really good. I'm ready to move on to the next one. Or I get to a point where I forget what I was upset about. And I'm just like, that's when you know that you've shifted your reality. Because when you forget what you were upset about, what you're writing about, that was like an old reality and you've now jumped into a new reality where that doesn't really exist. So don't try to remember what it is that you're working on. Let it be and just move on to the next one. So that's always a good sign when you forget. It's like, wait, what was I upset about? So either when you feel good and you're ready to move on to the next one, move on to the next one, or if you start forgetting what you were upset about, like what you're writing about, move on to the next one. Okay, so how could you take this another step, right? I was saying, you know, you wouldn't stop there, you go another level. So I'm going to read everything again, and then I'm going to add on the next layer. So in your notebook, if you were to read it sequentially, you might say, I feel disrespected because that was a disrespectful thing for my child to do. I would never have treated my parents the way that I am being treated. This feels unfair. However, I can think of many times when I disrespected my parents growing up in my own way. I can think of times even now when I have wronged someone else, either on accident or due to pride. In all those scenarios, it would have meant a lot to me, the world to me, if my parents or others had shown me a little compassion. So I have it in my heart to show compassion for my child as well. And then you might add, we are all unique individuals who came here with our distinct personalities. We all came to be who we are. Teenagehood is a part of that. My child is being disrespectful, but is also learning who they are and who they want to be through this experience. We are all growing, and I can accept that my child is doing the best that they can based off of their journey so far. So, you know, and you can keep going that way. Just keep showing compassion for the situation. Keep making your peace with the situation. That is very, very important. I'm going to touch on that at the end of this video, like a few key points to remember when you're doing the healing, but I want to keep the flow of the healing. So I hope this is making sense. So let me maybe recap the main steps really quickly here. So first you have a topic, Then you write down how you feel about the topic and all its honesty. You write down why you feel what you're feeling and specifics around that come to mind. Then you work on each one of those sentences and you show compassion to yourself, and then you show compassion to the other person involved or the situation involved. Okay, and then you keep going until you feel better, and then you move on to the next sentence and you repeat the same process. So one thing that I want to note here is everything that I said in this example is truly an example. So what you want to do is you want to use statements that are true for you. If you've never really wronged someone due to pride, don't write that. That was just an example because I think a lot of us have done that, and it's a way to kind of relate to the situation and show compassion. But if you haven't done that, don't write that. Just write the first part, which was like, I may have wronged people on accident, right? That's something that we can all relate to. So keep your sentences true in some way to you, but also they're true statements that move you in the direction of making peace with the situation as it is. By the end of this situation, by the end of every healing that you do, you want to feel better. And you also want to be so at peace with the situation that if it stayed the same, you would be okay. Because you have shifted your mentality. If the scenario did not shift for you, it doesn't matter because you shifted your perspective. And so everything that has happened is okay. Now, when you do this, this does not mean that your situation is going to stay the same. In fact, it means the complete opposite. Because when you have shifted and you no longer need your scenario to change for you to be happy, because you're happy by yourself, you have let go of your attachment to this scenario, and what you want is going to come in. And sometimes, I don't know if, did I say this already? Sometimes this is all you need to do for your situation to change and to manifest whatever you need. Sometimes you don't even need to set the desire. Sometimes it's going to be that powerful. So some things to keep in mind. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I have everything. Okay, so here is where I talk about the keys that you want to be aware of. So one of those keys, like I was saying, is that you really want to make peace with your situation. That's really important. You want to be happy with everything as it is, or as close to happy. I think the key word here is try to be at peace with your situation. Try to be happy with your situation. Try to find even the littlest glimmer of happiness. The key word here is try, like I was saying, and even a little glimmer is good enough because the universe will, if you show it just a little bit of shift in energy, it will take that and it will just run the full mile with that. Like it'll take it and it'll run and it'll go the mile for you. So you only have to try, you only have to feel a little bit better. You don't have to feel amazing. You just have to find a little bit of happiness, find a little bit of that feeling of you're able to let something go, and that's all that you have to do. And then the next day you just work from there. So try and make peace. That's key, is you want to make peace with the situation as it is. When you do that, you're letting go and you're able to allow so much more to come in. Okay, so now also, whenever you are working through each of these sentences, you may find that you're using the same logic over and over and over again. So an example of logic is when I was saying something like, we're all growing and I can accept that my child is doing the best that they can off of their journey so far. That is the logic that you can use for anything. You can use it for your child, you can use it for a stranger who's wronged you and be like, you know what, I don't know their life, I don't know their scenario, I don't know what experiences they've had, good, bad. I just know that they are on their journey and they're doing the best that they can. That's a logic that you can use in multiple scenarios. So you may find that as you're working on your sentences, you kind of keep using the same logic. That's okay. That is perfectly fine. The only thing that you need to make sure of whenever you're doing your healing is that you feel better than you did. You feel better walking out of it than you did when you walked in. You don't need to have the most genius, insightful, creative thought. You don't have to come up with new ideas all the time. None of that really matters. The only thing that truly matters in a healing is that you feel better. When you feel better, you have shifted your energy, you've shifted the potentials, you've released something and you've let go, and you are now allowing more than you were before. You've jumped realities. Like I was saying, sometimes you'll even forget what you were upset about. You've jumped realities. You are now in a reality where that's not a problem for you. So don't worry about repeating logic. Use what works. If it works, why not keep using it? If it's making you feel better, keep doing it. Stick with what you know. No need to reinvent the wheel. And, just keep using logic in different ways to help you release your blocks. The other thing is that sometimes, like I was saying before, like in this scenario, we only have 3 sentences that were really there. But like I was saying before, sometimes I've had like 10, I've had 12 sentences. And what you'll notice is that as you're working on each one, maybe after the first few, you feel really good. You feel so good that maybe you feel like you don't even need to work on the other ones. You're like, oh, like that doesn't really matter to me anymore. That's a really, really, really good sign. That means that you have shifted a lot. But I would still recommend that you keep going through that list because you're in a more positive mindset now after working on the first 3. So the other ones are going to be a lot easier, and you want to use that positive momentum to clear out as much as possible. So I would go through that list. Now, I do want to say that if you feel complete before doing that, then that's fine. If you just want to end your little healing session there, that's fine. Like if you should have worked on it and you stop too soon, then you'll just work on it the next day. Like it'll come up as an issue the next day. You'll still be feeling it and it's not a big deal. You just work on it the next day. So you really cannot go wrong with this. I would recommend going through the full list, but really just focus on how you feel. The key is always, do you feel better when you walk out than when you walked in? That is the key to healing. So that's the other thing. Okay, so now kind of speaking about working on things the next day. So sometimes, you'll start off, you start your first day with the topic and you write down your sentences and you work on it and you feel better. And that's good. And then the next day, maybe you feel better. Maybe you can work right where you left off the day before, or maybe you feel even better and you can work from a better vantage point. But maybe you actually feel the way that you felt at the beginning of yesterday and you're starting over. That is perfectly fine. When you start your next healing, don't go off of how you felt the day before. Don't try to say like, well, I felt this way yesterday when I was done, so that must be where I feel now. Every single day, every single time you work on your manifestations, every single time, always be honest about how you feel then in that moment. Not how you felt yesterday, how you feel today, here in this moment. And that's where you want to start. And if you're starting back where you were the day before or 2 days before, that is perfectly fine. That it does not mean that it didn't work. It only means that there are other angles to it that you just need to release and work on, that it's tougher and you're really clearing it out. Like once it's cleared out, it'll be cleared out. So just be patient with it. Don't fight with it. You're supposed to feel better at the end of this. So enjoy it, right? This should feel enjoyable at the end. You should feel relieved. You should feel better because that's the whole point of doing this. So do not feel bad if you are feeling how you were when you started the day before. You are not regressing. It's just part of the process. This happens. It's happened to me before. You will still manifest everything that you want. Just work on it day by day. Take it day by day. Every day, start new with how you feel and just take it from there. So, yep. I think that is basically all of the key points that I wanted to mention. Again, remember there are no bonus points for being realistic. So once you have stated how you feel, it's time to transmute it into something positive so you can shift realities, because the universe doesn't care how realistic you're being or how truthful you're being. You need to create a new truth, and that's what this whole process is for. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this all up here. So this is basically how to heal the emotional blocks. Again, if you haven't seen my first 2 videos, I highly recommend that you watch those. Those are really important. I think it'll make a lot more sense. It'll make the rest of these videos, including this video, make more sense when I talk about the fertile environment and the seeds of intention that you're planting. So there's that. And yeah, I also highly recommend that you watch part 2 of this video. I'm going to talk about the internal kinds of healings that we sometimes need to do. I recommend, sorry, my lawn's being cut right now, I guess. I hope it's not too loud. But I highly recommend that you also watch the next video because, there are going to be tips in there that you might be able to use when you're working on your external situations as well. You might get some inspiration from there, and there is a little bit of overlap, so it's really important to watch both. And then also we're always going to be dealing with both the internal and external blocks that we need to work on, so it's important to watch both. So I'm really glad that this video is wrapping up right now because of it's going to get a lot louder. Let me just double check that there's everything. yeah, so that basically concludes this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you really enjoyed this video, if it was helpful, make sure to hit that big like button. Make sure to hit subscribe. Also, make sure to share this with anybody that you know who could really use a boost in their life. And again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.